Hello everyone, and welcome to the Paul Ricard circuit in the south of France for the next round of the Ferrari Challenge, and it is the Coppa Shell drivers that will be on track first. Beautiful sunshine, beautiful temperatures here in Le Castellet for this 30-minute race, which is about to get underway. For, as I have said, the Coppa Shell drivers in the Ferrari Challenge. Beautiful scenery, beautiful location, and as you can see, it is round 4 with Silverstone, Imola, and the World Finals in Mugello still to come. We have been to Valencia, Monza, and Budapest, and now we find ourselves here in the south of France for the 2 races for the Coppa Shell, 2 races for Trofeo Pirelli, and the cars, as you can see, making their way onto the grid right now. Here is the circuit location then, about an hour from Marseille, maybe 35 minutes from Toulon, right on the coast of this lovely country. And it is beautiful, beautiful weather conditions. The Paul Ricard circuit, some 5.8 kilometers, 16 turns, 5 of them are left. 7 of them are left and 9 of them are right. Very short pit in and a very technical, challenging circuit in parts. And there we can see the harmless high cloud above, giving us a temperature of some 28 degrees and a track temperature of 43 degrees. And going to be hot in the 488 Ferrari Challenge cars in this, the 70th anniversary year of Ferrari. The 488 is the challenge car for this year, new to the challenge for this year. The first time we've had a turbo car in the Ferrari Challenge. The grid order, Johnny Lawson did it all in qualifying to give us pole position. Alongside him is Henry Hassid. And then on the next row of the grid, it's Rick Lovett and Eric Prinot. That's the way the first 2 rows look. Spectators here to enjoy the race action from the Ferrari Challenge. And the Coppa Shell then, which is littered with driving talent. And Johnny Lawson, who has had a dominant season so far, it has to be said, in the 160 car. He's had 2 wins, 2 P2s and 2 P4s. There you can see 177 career points and is currently the championship leader in the Coppa Shell. Henry Hassid alongside then, gentleman racer, 2 races, 1 win, therefore a 50% record, and Henry Hassid then going from P2 on the grid. His previous win coming in race 2 at Monza. Didn't contest the first round in Valencia, didn't contest at Budapest. This is Le Castellet. So, there you can see just what a great location this Paul Ricard circuit is in here in the south of France. And, of course, we'll play host once again to Formula 1 from next year. Rick Lovett, then, the Canadian racer for Castellet, goes from P3 on the grid. He was here during a test session earlier in the week and has a real liking for this circuit, which is, as I say, technical in places and will forgive those drivers that are very smooth in their approach to the race. Eric Prinot may not necessarily be one of those drivers that is sometimes the smoothest, preferring to throw absolutely everything at it and sometimes overdriving the car, but during qualifying did a good job by putting it on P4. And Eric Prinot is certainly further down in the points chart than he would expect to be. It's P6. Leading the Coppa Gentleman category is Eric Chung, who has his own little personal fan. That's a cooling fan as opposed to race fan, of which he has many, I am sure, not least of which is his wife Corinna, who is always alongside him. And Eric was here earlier in the year at Le Castellet at a separate Corsa Clienti Ferrari event here in Paul Ricard, where Corinna was telling me this morning where the temperatures were in single digits, so very, very different to the temperatures that we have here at the moment, where we're just a shade under 30 degrees thus far. 5 minutes then before the cars will be released. Of course, always a rolling start in the Ferrari Challenge. The Hublot safety car will lead them away as we look at the Christophe Herney car now, which is P6 on the grid for Christophe Herney. For Team Zenith Cyan of Lausanne, a 2:11.243 for the 162 car of Christophe Herney, whose best result so far has been a P2 in race 1 at the Monza circuit. What can he do here in Paul Ricard?
Hello, I am Henry Acid. I am a French driver. I live in Paris. It's my second meeting with Ferrari Challenge. I love this car and I love this track, so I think it will be a good weekend. This track is really fabulous with a slow and speed corner. You must have to be very fast, a very good pace. I think is one of the most beautiful track in Europe. And also, for me, it's a very special event because it's my almost own track. So for me, I have to be in front of the race, or I think I have to finish racing. So I hope you enjoy this weekend like me, because I think it will be a very special event for me and Charles Pozzi.
Well, we certainly don't want you to stop racing. Henry Hasse then from the Charles Pozzi team, then giving us his viewpoint on this Le Castellet circuit. As we look at the number 102 car of Claudio Schiavone, the Castellet racing driver. Now, in preparation for the racing this weekend, the drivers and a number of other people took part in a very special kart race. So the scene was set then for an assembled bunch of drivers, engineers, team managers, owners to get to grips with the somewhat challenging kart circuit here. It was absolutely hilarious, I have to say. Wasn't without its odd skirmishes, as you can see, and one of the most incredible starts I've ever seen to a kart race before the lights had gone green. The driver from about P4 on the grid found himself going into turn 1 ahead of anybody else. Absolutely amazing. But great camaraderie between everyone. It was Formula Racing that took the win, I believe. And for Formula Racing, they had Johnny Lawson's son, Conrad, racing, and he was very quick indeed. As is his dad in qualifying, because he's on pole position with Henry Hasse alongside. Then it's Rick Lovett and Eric Prinot, Eric Chung and Christophe Herney. Before we see Claudio Schiavone, Vladimir Hladek, von Skeltermar, Thomas Gostner, James Weiland and Manuela Gostner on row 6 of the grid. Manuela Gostner, the best of the lady racers in the grid so far. Will she be the winner of the Ladies' Cup in this race? Then we find Tommy Lindroth and Ingvar Madsen. Then it's Tina Koch and Henrik Kamstrup. Before we find Deborah Mayer and David Lim going from row 9 of the grid, and bringing up the rear, it's Murat Kuhadaroglu and Al Hegi. There is the back end of the Eric Chung car. And Eric Chung then going from P5 on the grid. So our pole sitter then is one, Mr. Johnny Lawson.
I'm happy to do the pole today in Paul Ricard. It's a fantastic track. I'm very happy for my team, Formula Racing. Thanks to them. Enjoy the race.
Pole position then for Johnny Lawson, who, as I mentioned, his son Conrad was supreme in the karting challenge last night, and it was he that was a centre of the celebration photograph as the trophy, which was nearly as big as he was held aloft. Right, Beppe Scanetti then, former Ferrari Challenge champion, is our safety car driver, the Hublot safety car that we're on board with right now, and it will be just a few seconds before the cars are released. They'll be picked up by the safety car, and then it is a rolling start, as is always the case for the Ferrari Challenge cars, as Henrik Hasse then leaves the grid with Eric Prinot behind, and lots of spectators to enjoy the race action to come. 30 minutes of race action from the Coppa category of the Ferrari Challenge. This long circuit, 5.8 kilometers, with two very long straights, and then almost at the either end of the straights are the very technical parts of this track, where you need to be super smooth to get the most out of it. All the social media at the top of the screen for you in graphics now. If you would like to be part of the Ferrari Challenge, come and join our family. We would encourage you to do so. And what a glorious sight it is to see all these 488 cars on their formation lap, ready for the start of race number one. Rolling start then as they cross the timing line, and they'll be running down into turn number one, which is the chicane, the Esses della Ferrari, as opposed to Ferrari. That will be the first turn that they come across. On board with Deborah Mayer, then the Castellet racing driver, who races. Now the pink on the left-hand side of the graphic indicates that she's racing in the Ladies' Cup as well, where there is a separate classification for the Ladies' Cup, and Manuela Gosner is the best of the ladies at the moment, and she is going from P12 on the grid. Her father Thomas is racing as well, and he's a couple of places higher in the grid. He's going from P10. So weaving from side to side to try and generate some temperature into the tyres is Christoph Herney then in the 162 car, who is P6 on the grid. And there the heat haze rising off the tarmac, which is the runoff areas are blue and red paint, and found out just before the start of this race that the blue parts have a different level of abrasiveness to the red parts of the circuit. So that is a part of the reason for the different colours. There's von Skelterma. He had a technical problem during qualifying from the Castellet racing team, which is within which garage we are invited right now. So von Skelterma going from P9 on the grid. He hoped for more, but he went out in the early stages of the qualifying session to find that there was a slight issue with the car, brought it back in, and with the qualifying sessions only 30 minutes long, by the time that the Castellet team had repaired the fault with the car, he could only get out and do really one hot lap, and right at the end of the session found himself mired in traffic, as well as other reasons, which meant it's going to be a P9 start for von Skelterma. So the safety car is ready to pick the cars up, and we are ready to go racing. Race one, Coppa, the Ferrari Challenge. We throw the lights to the top of the screen then as the anticipation and excitement builds as the lights are about to go green. And let's go racing. Ferrari Challenge, good start from Johnny Lawson and Henry Hassid P2 as they all run into turn number one. Henry Hassid late on the brakes, going on the inside of Johnny Lawson. Johnny Lawson shortcuts the chicane, as does Henry Hassid, as does Eric Prinot. The whole three of them went through there. But it is Johnny Lawson now who has his nose in front, and Henry Hassid flashing his lights furiously. We will see what the race director has to say about that start. Suspect that the start may well be under investigation. Eric Prinot then got himself ahead of Rick Lovett and finds himself in P3. And it is Johnny Lawson then at the moment who is in front, but he's being hounded by Henry Hassid. The two of them fighting right at the very start. So onto this long Mistral straight now, which has a chicane right in the middle of it, very similar to the Le Mans circuit. Heavy braking now as they turn into the chicane with Henry Hassid behind Johnny Lawson. Then it's Eric Prinot throwing everything at it as he goes through the curbs. And this is the second part of the Mistral straight, and towards the end of it they climb uphill and then go into the very technical part of this track, which requires you to be very super smooth. So Lawson then, Hassid, then it's Prinot, Lovett, Chung, and Christoph Herney is P6. Von Skeltermar, another one of the drivers that made good on the start, making up 2 places. He's gone from P9 to P7, and Henry Hassett is really hassling Johnny Lawson, and rather than the start being under investigation, it is the first corner incident is under investigation. So Johnny Lawson has for company his rearview mirrors full of the Henry Hassett car. These two absolutely as close can be around the final turn, turn 16, making their way now onto the start-finish straight. Both of them breaking away a little bit from Eric Prinot. And the margin between the two of them is just 0.3, as you can see. Rick Lovett is under a bit of pressure in P4 from Eric Chung. Again, some smoke coming off the Henry Hassett car as they turn in for turn number 1. Vladimir Hladek and Claudio Schiavone. There is the Claudio Schiavone car, number 102, which is currently running P9. And Hassett, for the moment, still has to sit behind the Johnny Lawson car. So Johnny Lawson then, who comes here with a rich vein of success so far. He's had 2 wins, 2 P2s and 2 P4s. And Henry Hassett then in P2, just 0.5 behind Johnny Lawson at the moment. So once again, the cars make their way onto the Mistral Straight, and these two breaking away a little bit. It's 2 seconds between Henry Hassett and Eric Prinot. Again, hard on the brakes as they turn in for the chicane, which is turns 8, 9 and turn 10 as well. And here we can see in replay then, Johnny Lawson had got his nose definitely in front right at the start, the dint of pole position, and then carrying too much speed. Henry Hassett with a big lock up there. Johnny Lawson went to turn in for the corner, and in fairness, I think Johnny Lawson really was denied the opportunity to turn into the corner, because where he wants to turn in was full of the Henry Hassett car. And you can see the dust, and various drivers choosing not to take that first chicane to avoid contact with other drivers. And there we can see in replay once again where both of them ended up not being able to make the chicane. And now we go to the pictures live, and Henry Hassett has got ahead of Johnny Lawson then. Well, hopefully we'll get a replay of the overtake, but the positions has switched, and Henry Hassett then, as he says, this is as close to a home race as he can get, and he wants to win here. That providing an extra motivation for him, and through that technical part of the track, that's where he has managed to get past Johnny Lawson. So P1 then is car number 112 now. Car number 147, I beg your pardon, that's Henry Hassett. Car number 112, of course, is Rick Lovett, who is running in P4 at the moment. So Henry Hassett leads from Johnny Lawson, and then it's Eric Prinot still trying to get on terms with both of them, and has taken a couple of tenths out of them. But I suspect that's been down to the overtake. The fastest lap comes from Henry Hassett now for Charles Pozzi, a 2:11.763. And now that Hassett has been released from Johnny Lawson, he's opened up a bit of a gap already, and does look like he is very much quicker than Johnny Lawson. So Johnny Lawson could fall prey to Eric Prinot then, but Hassett now with a completely clear track ahead of him. He is ahead of Johnny Lawson. So Henry Hassett, Johnny Lawson, Eric Prinot, Rick Lovett, then it's Eric Chung. Christoph Herney, von Skeltermar, James Wyland is P8, then it's Claudio Schiavone and Vladimir Hladek. So here is where the overtake happened then. Whether there was a bit of a touch there, well, that just unsettled the car a little bit. I'd like to see that almost again, but I do wonder whether there was just a little bit of a touch between Henry Hassett and Johnny Lawson, which would have just upset the balance perhaps of Johnny Lawson's car, which made the overtake even easier, but that is conjecture. I'm not sure. So the battle for P4 is between Rick Lovett and Eric Chung. Rick Lovett is the American racer, and Eric Chung then in car number 198 all over the back of Rick Lovett at the moment. Rick Lovett racing for the Castellet team, Eric Chung for the Formula Racing team. I mentioned that Eric Chung was here earlier in the year in a separate Ferrari Corsa Clienti event when the temperatures were vastly different to what we have today. And Eric Chung at the moment is being shown a clear clean pair of heels by Rick Lovett. Oh, and that for the 125 car was a spin around. The 126 car, if in fact, going around of Henrik Kamstrup. So there's our race leader. There is P2, and here is P3. Those three have broken away a bit from Rick Lovett and Eric Chung and Christoph Herney, and also von Skeltermar. There is Eric Chung continuing to pound on the back, not literally, of the Rick Lovett machine. And the battle for P4, as you can see, the first 7 minutes of the race done and dusted, where we have seen a lead change already, and it is Henry Hassid that has taken up the front running in this race. Von Skeltermar on the back of Christoph Herney now. So Von Skeltermar made up a couple of places in the opening lap, went from P9 to P7. And now he's trying to advance himself up to P6. What's preventing him do that at the moment is the Christoph Herney car. And the gap has really come down to just 4/10 between those two. It's perhaps one of the closer battles that's going on at the moment. James Weiland is P8, just behind von Skeltermar. Skeltermar now to the inside, and has got the job done, and he goes through on Christoph Herney. James Weiland trying to take advantage of that as well, but good overtake there from the shark's teeth of von Skeltermar over Christoph Herney, and he goes through. So von Skeltermar moves up another place, and it's now a P6 in the running for him in his Ferrari 488 car. Hassid has opened up a gap of some 1 second over Johnny Lawson, and well, Skeltermar has lost that place again because Christoph Herney has come back at him. Now von Skeltermar fights back. Real battle between these two, and now James Weiland is trying to buy into this battle as well, as is Claudio Schiavone also. So the battle for 6th position, it's a 4-way battle actually between Skeltermar, Herney, Weiland and Schiavone, and James Weiland and Claudio Schiavone go round. Well, both of them are going to be able to return and actually don't lose the huge handful of places that they could. We'll doubtless see that again in replay. There was, I think, contact between James Weiland and Claudio Schiavone, and that just caused both of them to slide off the track. So von Skeltermar for the moment has seen off Christoph Herney. And there is the Shark's Teeth front of the 177 car for the Netherlands-based driver von Skeltermar. Here it is then. Oh, and in fairness, Claudio Schiavone was trying to get up the inside of James Weiland. And there was a touch between the two of them, and that meant that they both went spinning around, and that incident is under investigation. This was Christoph Herney coming back at von Skeltermar, and the number 100 car of Tina Koch with a high-vis vest, it would appear, on the front of her car. Health and safety will be pleased about that. So Eric Prinot then in car number 181 is P3, or was P3, has been passed by Rick Lovett. So Rick Lovett, the Canadian racer, Eric Prinot, and then behind Eric Prinot is Eric Chung. Best of the ladies is Manuela Gosner running in P9. A drive-through penalty for car number 102. Quick on that. That was the incident that we saw just a few moments ago between James Weiland and Claudio Schiavone. Claudio Schiavone on the inside of James Weiland in a bold and ambitious move, which probably was never going to pay off, and that caused both of them to spin around. And this was Rick Lovett then on Eric Prinot. And just waiting to pounce as well, Eric Chung there. Here is Johnny Lawson now. Henry Hassid and Johnny Lawson have opened up such a margin over the P3 position at the moment. very nearly 10 seconds. And this battle for P3 running between Lovett and Prinot and Eric Chung as Henry Hassid sets the third consecutive fastest lap. He is on a mission here at 2:11.229, 2:11.220 actually for Henry Hassid. Very, very quick indeed. There is Eric Chung, who is currently P5 and has the Ineco MP driver Eric Prinot ahead. So Eric Chung for Formula Racing, it's a 2:11.220, the fastest lap from Henry Hassid. Forgive me, the focus on the timing screen is not as good as perhaps we'd like it to be, as Claudio Schiavone comes in then to serve his drive through a penalty and completes that and is back out on track once again. But his position in the race now supremely compromised, unfortunately. So this is the three-way fight for the final podium position, as Eric Chung just taking a look at the inside of Eric Prinot. Had to dial out of that because there was going to be contact between the two of them, and Eric Chung realised that and dialed out of that overtake potential and opportunity. So Rick Lovett then, the Canadian racer, is P3. And what will be ideal for Rick is for Eric Prinot and Eric Chung to really fight together, because whilst Eric Prinot is having to defend hard, it means that Rick Lovett is able to get up the road and escape the two that are behind him and try and secure that final podium place, if you like. So those three are just ahead of von Skeltermeyer, Christoph Ernie and Vladimir Hladek. Now, we did see one or two track limit issues during qualifying for the grid for this race, but at the moment, thus far, with the exception of the investigation of the first corner incident right at the start of the race, track limits appear not to have been too much of an issue. So Eric Prinot and Eric Chung with similar exits from the final turn 16. And Rick Lovett then, who is showing superior pace at the moment, is able to just escape those two, and von Skeltermeyer is trying to buy into that battle as well. The battle for P6 at the moment isn't so much of a battle, because I don't think Christoph Ernie is anything like close enough to be able to trouble von Skeltermeyer at the moment. But what Skeltermeyer is trying to do is, of course, put in some very, very quick laps to try and get on terms with Rick Lovett and Eric Prinot and Eric Chung ahead of him. And interestingly, Eric Prinot and Eric Chung, as they've been fighting together, though, it was 2:15s for them, whereas the two cars behind were both in the 2:14s, which proves how much time you lose as you are constantly battling. The Formula Racing engineers there, as you can see, and a problem there for the 144 car of Vladimir Hladek, who is dropped down the order now. There is Henry Hassid for the Charles Pozzi team, who is leading the race and is also the best of the separately classified gentleman racers as well. Very nearly reached halfway stage in this race. And Henry Hassid then, who we heard from, who gave us the introduction, if you like, to the Paul Ricard circuit right at the start of our program, doing a very good job out front at the moment. So this was the 144 car of Vladimir Hladek, which then saw Thomas Gersner and Tommy Lindroth all go past, and this is Eric Prinot then on Rick Lovett. And if Eric Prinot is ahead of Rick Lovett, surely he would have to give that place back. We didn't actually see where they were in the back end of that shot. Prinot at the moment for the timing screen remains behind Eric Chung. So there is the 126 car of Henrik Kamstrup, which had had a spin earlier on in the race and now finds himself behind Deborah Mayer. So the incident involving cars 144 and 183 is under investigation. That, of course, is the Vladimir Hladek and Manuela Gersner incident. I say that is, of course, we didn't actually see that, I don't think. Where is Manuela Gersner at the moment? Manuela is running P9, so is ahead of her father, Thomas. So on board we go with Deborah Mayer, the Kessel Racing lady driver. Round turn 16 and down the start-finish straight now for Deborah Mayer, who is P15. Actually P14 in the race now. And on board the pit wall as the cars come screaming past. And the fastest of those is Henry Hassid. As further back, it looked like Eric Chung was getting ahead of Rick Lovett, just at the back of the picture. There is Johnny Lawson, who is P2. Now, the last lap, Henry Hassid again was quicker, and sure enough, Eric Chung has got past Rick Lovett and Eric Prinot. Here comes Rick Lovett fighting back then, so Eric Chung now finds himself in P3, ahead of Rick Lovett. And Eric Prinot having a go at Rick Lovett as well. Now, whether Rick has just got a slight issue that has caused him to slow, maybe, or whether there was a mistake somewhere on the previous lap. And when you consider that Eric Chung was behind both of them at one point, whether the two of them fighting just allowed Eric to get ever closer and be able to get past. Well, Eric Chung was certainly ahead of Eric Prinot, and then under braking going into the turn. Well, a very good overtake from Eric Chung, to be fair. But Rick Lovett is chasing him down, and those two cars do seem to be, at this stage of the race, just beyond halfway. A bit quicker than Eric Prinot, and now Fons Skeltermar is under pressure from Christoph Herniers. Christoph Herniers turned up the wick a bit on the Fons Skeltermar car, so Fons Skeltermar is currently running P6, so he's advanced 3 places from his starting position and finds himself P6 at the moment, but he is also being hounded by Christoph Hernie. What we should remember is, as we reach the third part of this race, as Fons Skeltermar there with a slight mistake. That allows the 162 car ever closer, but Ernie was not really in a position to be able to take advantage of that. I was going to say is into the final 10 minutes of this race, and we've got 11 minutes and change remaining. The tyres have, of course, been used and beginning to show signs of degradation potentially. So Rick Lovett then, he is being shown a clean pair of heels now by Eric Chung, and here comes Christoph Hernie once again on Fons Skeltermar. Both the cars down. They dip down at the front end as they brake and turn in, and some debris on the track there from a previous incident. Seen some odd incidents or odd things with the high-vis vest in the front of Deborah Mayer's car, and it was a Tina Cock's car, I can't remember, it might have been Tina Cock to be fair, and then something on the track there, but Fons Skeltermar has got his rear view mirrors full of the 162 car of Christoph Hernie, and the remaining 10.5 minutes of this race, Fons is going to have to, well, looks like another part of a high-vis jacket, but actually what it is, I think it's one of those plastic marker cones, isn't it, that's got high-vis material, and part of that appeared on the Tina Cock car, and part of it we can now see in the middle of the track. So Christoph Hernie has got past Fons Skeltermar as we were looking at the track marker that had been dislodged. Christoph Hernie did get past Fons Skeltermar, and now that he has got past Fons Skeltermar, he seems to have more life in his tyres than Fons does as they round turn 16. You can just see the back end of the Fons Skeltermar really stepping out then, reinforcing what we're saying about potentially the tyres having degraded over the course of the race. Very, very warm temperatures here, of course, as well. Under 10 minutes remain. Here's Eric Prinot then. And there is Manuela Gosner, the leader of the Ladies' Cup. Well in the points as well is Manuela Gosner, P8 overall. Good driving from Manuela Gosner. Under pressure now is Tommy Lindroth from Thomas Gosner, father of Manuela. Manuela having got past her dad earlier in the race. And in the middle of that little family squabble now is Tommy Lindroth in the number 127 car. There is Thomas Gosner in the 161 machine, with his daughter a couple of places ahead. Manuela Gosner driving very, very well in P8. 8 3/4 minutes of the race left. Here comes Manuela Gosner then. James Wyland, you can see now behind Thomas Gosner. James Wyland's performance in the race compromised by that coming together with Claudio Schiavone earlier in the race, which was Claudio was penalised with that drive-through penalty. So this in replay then is how Herney did get past Fons Skeltermar. Fons with a very wide line there, and Christoph Herney saw a window of opportunity and was going to go for it. There was a panel rub between the two of them, and there we can see in the Castellet Racing garage there that Fons Skeltermar has gone back to P7 because Christoph Herney has managed to get past. And Herney does look quicker. Johnny Lawson has just found a little bit of pace as well. Henry Hassid, I mean, they were a couple of tenths between the two of them in terms of lap pace from the last lap, but the margin that Henry Hassid has over Johnny Lawson is some 5.5 seconds, which is very good driving from Henry Hassid. So, up the inside of the 126 car, taking a fair bit of the curb and runoff area there was Claudio Schiavone, who of course has already had a drive-through penalty. Might well be under investigation for track limits again, I would think. Driver of car number 144 has to report to the stewards at the end of the meeting. That's Vladimir Hladik, who is in the pit lane now and is out of the race. Henry Hassid then, as I mentioned, 5.5 seconds to the good over Johnny Lawson. Last couple of laps, Johnny Lawson has been quicker, but the margin of comfort that Henry Hassid has built over Johnny Lawson is such that actually he's not under any pressure whatsoever, because there's 6.5 minutes of the race remaining, and in that period of time then Henry would have to make a huge mistake to allow Johnny Lawson to get back on terms with him. The 193 car is Al Hegyi that we saw just a few moments ago as they make their way off the back of the chicane. Here comes Eric Chung, who's running P3. Rick Lovett is P4. And P5 is Eric Prinot. So there is the Eric Chung car. And there is the Ineco MP liveried Eric Prinot car. So Eric Chung then with a back-marking driver ahead. And the back-marking car of Al Hegyi tries to get out of the way of the faster cars that are coming through, and all three of them do get through. Now, the overtake that we saw from car number 102, Claudio Schiavone, has been judged to have been illegal because the advantage was gained by exceeding the track limits, and Claudio Schiavone being told to give that place back. So that information from race control as Eric Chung continues on his way in P3. Now, the P1 and P2 drivers are some 30 seconds up the road of Eric Chung. It's an extraordinary feat of great driving from both Henry Hassid and Johnny Lawson. And there is Eric Prinot's partner, Monica, looking on, hands clenched, and there is Claudio Schiavone, who has had a challenging race, I think it's fair to say. I was having a conversation with him just before we came up to our commentary studio here, and there you can see confirmation that he has to give that position back to car number 126 of Henrik Kamstrup, which also means, in effect, he'll have to give the position back, or he will be vulnerable to be given the position back to Deborah Mayer. There you can see Deborah Mayer. So he has got to slow sufficiently to allow the 126 car to come past, which inevitably means that Deborah Mayer, who incidentally is his partner, is going to go past as well. Interesting conversation over tea time tonight, I would think, between the two of them. On board with Deborah Mayer now, the lady racer. I don't see Claudio Schiavone slowing too much at the moment. Through the gearbox goes Deborah Mayer, then the Castellet Racing engineered lady racer. And there on the pit wall of Charles Pozzi, their driver doing a great job. He's very nearly 6 seconds to the good, and the top speed recorded at 254 kilometers per hour. And with but 3 minutes and a few seconds remaining in this race, Henry Hasid, then it's been a masterclass of how to get the best out of this Ferrari 488 car, and also get the best out of this Paul Ricard circuit. Tommy Lindroth has got Thomas Gostner behind him now. So Tommy Lindroth remains in that Gostner sandwich. Great minds think alike. Oh, and Tommy Lindroth gets very sideways there. Tommy was certainly at the kart race yesterday. I'm not convinced that he took part in the kart race. Glass of lemonade in hand at time. Right. So Manuela Gostner, Tommy Lindroth, and Thomas Gostner. This is P8, P9, P10 is Thomas Gostner, P11 is James Weiland, who will feel pretty hard done by, although the car that took him out was given a drive-through penalty. What it doesn't ever do is it doesn't ever give James Weiland the position back in the race of where he was at that point. So do feel for James Weiland a little bit. The order in full on the left-hand side of the screen for you. So Tommy Lindroth behaving like the perfect gentleman behind Manuela Gostner, and thus far has made no really challenging advances, although now he is reeling in the Manuela Gostner car. This is Tommy Lindroth to the outside of Manuela Gostner, but I don't think he's close enough. No, he isn't. They have to brake for the chicane, which splits this long straight here at Paul Ricard. And here they come, and now about to go uphill before this technical section of the circuit, which takes in turns 11, 12, 13, 14 and 15. Now, insofar as I can tell, Claudio Schiavone has still not given that position back. And this is Eric Prinot and Rick Lovett side by side, which is the fight for P4, which has been won by Eric Prinot currently. So onto the final lap we go then, with Henry Hasid some 6 seconds to the good. Rick Lovett has obviously just lost out on a place and now goes back to P5. There is our P3 driver, Eric Chung, and Johnny Lawson is the driver that is P2. Eric Prinot then up to P4 now. Not sure he's going to be able to have the pace to get on terms with Eric Chung in this one remaining lap. So this is the Coppa Shell race, and on board the pit wall here is our race leader Henry Hasid, then some 6.3 seconds ahead of Johnny Lawson. He has the final section of 4-5 turns to complete in the 147 car, and then the race will be done and dusted, and victory will go the way of Henry Hasid, pending, of course, the investigation with regards to the turn 1 incident. So Henry Hasid rounds the final section of turns now, and for what is the closest to a home race that Henry Hasid can get, he is looking forward to seeing the checkered flag unfurl ahead of him to complete the victory of this 30-minute Coppa Shell race. So one turn to do for Henry Hasid as he turns in and sees the checkered flag being waved. Henry Hasid victorious in race 1 for Coppa Shell here at Paul Ricard. Some 6 seconds behind will come the car of Johnny Lawson to take P2, and Thomas Gostner has gone around. So there is Johnny Lawson, and now make yourself a sandwich before we get to P3, which is Eric Chung, he is some 30 seconds down on the top two. So it will be some time before we see Eric Chung cross the timing line. In fairness, here he comes, one bend to do. And Eric Chung will take P3. Eric Prinot will take P4. Then it should be Rick Lovett to take P5. Sure enough, he's going to be chased across the line by Christoph Herney for P6. And P7 will go the way of von Skeltermar then. It should be Manuela Gostner ahead of Tommy Lindroth to take P8. Yes, sure enough, Manuela is able to fend off the advances of Tommy Lindroth. So it's P8 for Manuela, P9 for Tommy Lindroth, and James Wyland makes it to P10 at the end of the race. So, interesting race very much from the Coppa Shell category of the Ferrari Challenge. There's Conrad climbing the catch fencing to say congratulations to Johnny Lawson. So James Wyland and Thomas Gostner then. Thomas turns in, and the gap that he's turning into is full of the 118 car of James Wyland. Suspect that will be something else that will be looked at by the race stewards come the end of the race. Great flag show from the marshals that has seen car number 147 take the win, and Claudio Schiavone is going to get a time penalty because he didn't give that place back to Henrik Kamstrup. So stand by, the order will change then, because Claudio Schiavone, who's classified as P14, is going to be further down the order, I would suggest. There is the Claudio Schiavone car. So the heat haze in the pit lane as we await the cars coming back then. Eric Chung then, a good P3 for him. But a fantastic win for Henry Hassid, who did all the hard work right at the start of the race. Of course, this also pending whatever the race stewards might say. Hassid taking the win from Johnny Lawson then in P2. The graphics there indicating who came where, with Eric Chung P3, Eric Prinot P4. Then it was Lovett, Herney, Skeltermar, Gostner, Lindroth and Wyland taking P10 at the moment. And then it was Kuhada Ruglu, Thomas Gostner, Tina Koch, Claudio Schiavone. We know he's going to get a time penalty. Deborah Mayer, Henrik Kamstrup, and the rest of the order. So Henry Hassid then for the Charles Pozzi team is congratulated as he leaves the car. So we try and listen into the conversation, though not able to make too much out of it because of the language barrier. And there's Johnny Lawson.
Was it him that was on the inside? Was he on the inside?
Yeah. But not that much, and at the end both cars went outside.
So just discussing that move right at the start of the race.
Yeah, later. Anyway, you did it.
Was it him that was on the inside?
Yeah.
Huh? Was it him that was on the inside?
Yeah.
Trying to pick up on those conversations. There's Eric Chung then. He'll be up on the podium. Hey, good job, Eric, we hear. We will also see Manuela Gostner, of course, up on the podium for her Ladies' Cup win.
Great job, great job.
Second P9 for Tommy Lindroth in 2 races as well in a row, to P9 in the last race at Budapest.
Sei stata bravissima, bravissima, brava.
Well done, Manuela. Oh, a sense of relief of the end of the race. So a little snapshot of some of the show here at Le Castellet. And we're awaiting the podium. Claudio Schiavone does get that time penalty, and that puts him down to P17. So, Corsa Clienti, and of course the 70th anniversary of Ferrari being celebrated here in Le Castellet. And drivers now making their way to the podium, which is not a short walk, it has to be said, from the pit lane. But they've done their best to get there as quickly as they can. And stand by, we will bring the podium to you in just a mo. So the podium is literally right next door to our commentary position here, and as you can see, with the exception of the bottles of champagne, which are on the steps 1, 2 and 3 at the moment, the drivers still making their way there. As I say, it's a little bit of a stomp from the pit wall to the podium. But they are behind there, and they're on their way now. Here comes Eric Chung then, who will take step number 3. P2 goes the way of Johnny Lawson, who positively sprints to the podium. Henry Hassiad then takes P1. Charles Pozzi is the team that's going to be represented on the podium as well. And we will also see Manu Gostner, who will join us for the best of the ladies. Look at that.
And now we're ready for National Anthem.
National Anthem time for Henry Hassiad.
Our claps for this podium. The trophy are presented by Dr. Frederic Tournier.
So it is trophy presentation time now. And Frédéric Tournier, the board member of the Circuit Paul Ricard, makes the trophy presentation first of all to Eric Chung. It's another trophy to add to the Chung collection. Johnny Lawson takes his P2, and Henry Hassiad then, who very much wanted to win here and has done it, and takes the win for race 1. Formula Racing, of course, will pick up the team's trophy, and it is going to be Manuela Gostner. Manu Gostner then, who takes the Ladies' Cup. She's got a few of those now, it has to be said. So first of all, the Gentleman Trophy, of course, because it's double bubble for Henry Hassiad, because he takes the Gentleman Trophy as well. And loud cheers for Manu Gostner then, who takes another Ladies' Cup. Well done, Manuela. Good drive. Well, forget the photos. Let's just get straight into the champagne. And why not? It's the driver's right, isn't it? I think they need the cooling properties of the champagne. Super slow-mos of the top 3, then Eric Chung then for Formula Racing, who battled hard during the course of the race and did a good job to find himself in P3 when it came to podium time. Johnny Lawson, well, he lost it on the first lap, really, and he will look at the replays of that race and just ascertain what he could have done differently, although in the end the pace that Henry Hassid had was extraordinary, and Henry Hassid took the win, of course. And super slow-mo there. Some lovely shots there. This was the car that did it all then. The Charles Pottsy engineered Henry Hassid car is the winner of race 1 for Coppa, who have another race, of course, to come tomorrow here at the Paul Ricard circuit. But ahead of that, we do have a Trofeo Pirelli race to come as well. Manuela Gosner, the winner of the Ladies' Cup race. So good number of people here. As Tina Koch there, you can see central picture, having a conversation with the Formula Racing team down there as well about her performance in the race, which a P13, very creditable performance from Tina. So as the lights went green and the cars headed to turn number 1, Johnny Lawson had done it all, but then came the lock-up from Henry Hassid, which meant that both Henry Hassid and Johnny Lawson had to shortcut the chicane, and shortcut it they did by some measure. And Henry Hassid ahead of Johnny Lawson then, with Eric Prenot fighting hard in P3. He was soon overtaken though by Rick Lovett. And Eric Chung, who was just stealth-like behind the two of them, waiting for his opportunity to pounce. And whilst he was waiting for his opportunity to pounce, there was a sequence of extremely fast laps from Henry Hassid. Von Skeltermar and Christoph Herney were battling and battling, lap after lap after lap. In the end, an error from Von Skeltermar as he whale-tailed the car, which cost him just a little bit of time and cost him sufficient time to allow Christoph Herney, not without a slight touch, to go through. Henry Hassid, though, the undisputed winner, he was very quick during the race and was delighted to put the car in front of the P1 board in Parc Fermé. P2 went the way of Johnny Lawson, and P3 for Eric Prenot. Manuela Gosner, the winner of the Ladies' Cup. She was pretty happy about that as well. So what a fantastic sight that is of the spectators here at the Circuit Paul Ricard, with the mountains behind. And in the Drivers' Championship now, Johnny Lawson on 113 points. Then is Eric Chung, Rick Lovett, Eric Prenot, Christoph Herney, Von Skeltermar. Henry Hassid, even though he's taken the win, is still only P7 in the points. But Johnny Lawson is quietly being, his lead is being eroded. And Eric Chung now 87 points and Johnny Lawson on 113. So, there in the paddock, it's a busy place, and join us for the next race. Trofeo Pirelli race at 13:35 GMT. Thank you so much for being part of it, and we'll see you for the Trofeo Pirelli race. Bye-bye.